AskReddit by Lyle45. Victims of insomnia that lasted years, what made it finally stop? My father had delayed sleep phase disorder or DSPD. Suffered badly with insomnia for 40 years until he retired and realized he slept fine but simply much later at night and into the morning. Yep, that's how I am. My best sleep would be between 5 AM and noon. Sleep like a rock on days off. It's frustrating. Psychotic break. Ever since, I've been sleeping 10-14 hours a night. It must have been terrible getting to that point. I'm so sorry, but I'm glad you're able to sleep again. I work graveyard shift. For some reason I sleep fine in the daytime, just not at night. I was an owl in my last life. You might have DSPD. I've got great news for all you insomniacs. It's only 2 more sleeps until Christmas. This is very funny. Ridiculously, one day it just did. I have no explanation for that. I had insomnia pretty much from birth to 30ish, then went through a phase of sleepwalking, and since then I've rarely had any trouble. I'm 52 now. You know, that's the same for me. Started about 6 years ago, got worse and worse. I was losing my mind. Had tried multiple OTC and prescribed medication. Nothing worked for long. Only a few days where my body would then eventually reset. Then, 2 months ago, just disappeared. Like it was never there. One night, I was feeling sleepy. I laid down and slept without any aid. Then another, and now it's gone. I can't explain it. Both my doctors have no answers. I was young when I had consistent, years-long insomnia. The thing that kept me up most nights was obsessive, intrusive thoughts and anxieties. Eventually, honestly, it just got old. I was so tired of caring, I started what I called partitioning my brain, and turning off those thoughts because they were exhausting. Now I know that this practice isn't exactly healthy, but it worked. And I started sleeping like a normal kid and my parents stopped wondering what was wrong with me. Edit. I was compartmentalizing. I just didn't have the word for it when I was a kid. Recently, I was told it was unhealthy to be doing it so frequently. But I'd still highly recommend doing it if the reward is sleep. Actually, that is a healthy strategy. Did a sleep study and it turned out I actually had restless leg. It's where you have these micro movements that aren't necessarily enough to notice, but they can disrupt your sleep pretty significantly. I take medication for that now, which works a lot better than the extended release Ambien I was given before, but the insomnia still can be bad at times. That I chalk up to anxiety. Had to scroll so far down to find this. I'm surprised it hasn't been said before. Restless legs are hell, and none of the sleep hygiene advice everybody gives makes any difference. After years of not being taken seriously, I finally got a sleep study. After multiple other medications that didn't work, pramipexole finally did. It's been 80 years of wishful thinking. It didn't stop. That makes 2 of us. Retimer goggles. I visited a sleep disorder clinic about 10 years ago and was told to purchase these. A week later, I was infinitely better. I was living in a permanent state of jet lag that would never correct itself, even if I stayed up all night through to the next. But if I put my goggles on as soon as I wake up, my body clock actually gets itself together. Honestly, the best thing I have ever purchased. They are pricey though. Retimer goggles. https://www.re-timer.com. I really hope people see this comment and give these a go. I can't stress enough how much these have helped me. Insomnia is a bloody awful thing, and if these work for you as well as they have for me, then life will be a whole lot better. Sleeping like a normal person is wonderful. My partner suffers from this and I see what it does to her, so I just want to wish you all the best. The rare occasions where she'll crash out hard and early, I do everything I can to keep the noise down to not disturb her to the point that I'll sleep in another room. More often than not, she'll come to bed much later and then toss and turn until very late in the morning hours. She absolutely hates that I can climb into bed and be out in 10 minutes. It's been a lifelong challenge for her. Has she tried a weighted blanket? It helped me when barely anything else did. I finally mastered 8-9 hours a night for the first time in my life. I frequently go 3 days no sleep, so there's no telling how long this will last, but hopefully it helps someone. I take magnesium a few hours before bed and then at the same time every night, some form of CBN, melatonin with valerian root. This is essential, and a sleep ease, diphenhydramine. These each take about 45 minutes to kick in, so taking them all at once gives me the perfect sleep. Just came by to compliment your cocktail. Biphasic sleep, sleeping under red orange lights, using a weighted blanket plus heated blanket all year, and having a work from home job that's compatible with an inconsistent sleep schedule. It turns out that trying to maintain good sleep hygiene, consistent schedule, 8 hours every night, cool dark room, avoiding the bed except for sleep, actually wrecks my sleep. Sleep With Me podcast. It's a talking podcast where his voice relaxes you to sleep. I can second that idea. I use audiobooks, but the goal is to keep the gremlins in the back of my brain from spinning themselves into knots of anxiety. Stupid brain won't shut up, so I throw it a bone with the stories I've already read. I go for longer audiobooks because I will always wake up in the middle of the night, and having the book still going sometimes helps to keep the brain from spinning up again before I'm even fully conscious. I tried the meds. I would recommend that you learn from my suffering that they are more trouble than they are worth. Sleep hygiene works better and doesn't stop working and then prevent you from sleeping for a week straight trying to get off. At least I was already on antipsychotics from the hospital that stuck me on the sleeping pills on a nightly basis. Terrible idea. WTF were they thinking? I still sleep like shit, but it's a lot better shit than before now. Trazodone. Do you get the wiggles if you stay up too long? Or how about waking up to pee when the trazodone is in fully effect? Man, trazodone was wild lol. I now realize that I have anxiety, lol. I've had sleep problems since I was like 5 or more, and then from my teenagers into my 20s, school and acne exacerbated it. It's weird because at times, I feel like putting a label on my thoughts made me more anxious, but also, I have somewhat learned to chill out at specific times. I'm also very high energy, so I try to exercise before I go to bed. Turns out I also have sleep apnea, and it runs in the family, so my CPAP machine currently helps out a lot, but I still get random bouts on insomnia. It's crazy because I specifically remember during puberty laying there waiting for the sun to rise to go to school, but to me that was my normal, so I never really told my parents, peers, or even doctors about it. My friends would probably describe me as a bit neurotic though, because I guess I'm always on edge, sleep deprived. Completely abandoning every piece of advice I'd been given about avoiding screen time and any stimulation and to just lie down until I sleep, because that only ever led to frustration for me. When I was like 20 I had been telling a therapist for months that I couldn't fucking sleep, and one day she brought a magazine article for me to read about teens and their screens like that was the whole problem. I walked out on her. Instead I listen to certain podcasts or YouTubers I find easy to fall asleep to, and play either solitaire or crossword puzzles on my phone until I fall asleep. Also melatonin most nights, which I recognize may or may not be a placebo effect, but if it is then it's a helpful one, so I'm not gonna argue with it. A very specific pillow arrangement that keeps my neck comfortable, and a weighted blanket, occasionally with a second weighted blanket thrown on over top if I'm stressed lol. My phone puts me to sleep FR. I got a desk job. Now instead of no sleep I have no soul. Weed lol. Weed will get you to sleep, but it doesn't give you good sleep. even if you wake up feeling rested. Switching to cotton bedding. I threw out any old microfiber, polyester blend sheets and replaced them with 100% cotton. Doesn't even have to be expensive, any thread count will do so long as it's 100% cotton. Since polyester is plastic, it would stick to my body ever so slightly, and I had to be constantly moving around in order to keep my skin cool. All that tossing and turning kept me up at night. Cotton breathes, switch to cotton. Bamboo is really nice too, but kind of pricey. Took melatonin 4 years to sleep. I recently completed a genetic test and found out I had some mutations that's made it hard for me to break down nutrients. Reportedly, those nutrients were important for the production and breakdown of neurotransmitters. I've been making dietary adjustments for about 3 weeks and just started sleeping without some form of medication over the past 4 days. Hoping it sticks. 10 mg MJ gummy 2 to 3 hours before sleep time. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and Seroquel and Lamictal make me sleep. Ditto, but I gained a ton of weight. I had to face it head on. My racing thoughts, worry and stress were slowly killing me. I found tools and tricks to help with each symptom. I never worry about the future anymore when I'm trying to fall asleep, too many variables, so I think of a pleasant memory from my past. I take Tylenol PM about 1 hour before I want to be asleep. I never exercise or break a sweat within 3 hours of wanting to fall asleep. I nap if I'm tired, my body tells me if it's appropriate. But you will need to find your own way to obtain deep restful sleep. Sleeping pills.